What was this drama right here with Ashes of Creation? Let's see.
Filings, because everyone is suing everyone. Maybe I'll even sue you, the viewer, just for the hell of it. Because today it's time to find out about what's up with Ashes of Creation and how it imploded. Things have gotten much messier over the last few weeks. Intrepid, we're supposed to have a live...
Can I sue people for not using their Twitch Prime? For just letting it sit there all day? For days at a time? Not even that they didn't use it on me, but they just didn't use it. You know what I mean? Like, that's diabetical. There's got to be some kind of clause for somebody just sitting on a Prime. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just sit on a Prime and not use it on somebody, man. That's free money. Give it to somebody. You know what I mean? It doesn't even have to be me. And the one, and let's go. Thank you for that Prime. Let's go. Thank you.
Stream on the 13th of February to showcase
Another
the future of the game, but there was the slight problem that everyone working there was laid off with no pay or no severance. What people want is clarity on what happened.
Dude, this whole situation is so crazy to me. Dilstramus, solemnly, thank you guys for the primes. So, y'all know the whole story with Steven. He was saying, I'm a rich guy, I can fund this whole project, and we can do it, and we'll make a video game, like a game by gamers for gamers. Like, that's what he was trying to make. He was trying to make an MMO for like a guy. He was just a guy who loved MMOs. He wanted to make an MMO for people that like MMOs, right? Because the genre's dying, and there hasn't been any bangers that have come out recently. And he was like preaching this whole message. And so he got people to invest in his vision. He opened a GoFundMe. Then he got backers. Then he got investors. And then the investors were saying that he didn't invest any money into this project. Like, he was just yapping. Like, the whole thing was set up from the beginning to be a scam. And then he legally covered himself by releasing the game as an early access product. But when you do that on Steam, it counts as an actual release. So he released a half-baked game that he didn't invest any money to, and then instantly laid everybody off. And then he said the board took over the game when he's the only one on the board. This whole thing is absolutely devious. I am almost not even mad at how genius the whole thing was from a scam. This guy is 99 scamming. He leveled up his scamming first in life. And the reason he has money is also from a scam. And then we trusted this guy to make us a video game. And I gave him $500. What the hell was I thinking? B-List, thank you for the Prime. Macto, thank you for the Prime. Derek, thank you for the Prime. Solemnly, you guys, legends. Thank you guys for using those Primes, boys.
People have not gotten that. But what we have got is loads of lawsuits and a hell of a story for us to go through today. Staff are suing Intrepid, investors are planning suits against creative director and former CEO Steven Sharif, and Sharif himself has delivered on his promise, because he's also brought legal action against the people he claims have stolen the company from him in a multi-year scam designed to end with them being on top. It's quite a lot. Now, these are freshly filed suits, and they only reflect the events and the opinions of each plaintiff, right? So it reflects what they want to put forward. You need to remember that everyone is going to make themselves look good, and the people that they're suing look awful. That's how these things go. So today, we're actually not discussing reality. We are discussing allegations. And boy, are there some damning allegations to discuss. Let's begin with the staff, and the good news is, this is the most clear-cut bit of legal action. As early as February 4th...
If the staff are suing the guy, I'm in favor of the staff, regardless of what the allegations say. The majority of people are usually not wrong. If everybody is suing the guy who owns the company, then that guy probably did something wrong. I don't think it takes rocket science to figure that out. I think Steven is countersuing to try and make himself not look like a bad guy. He's literally a bad guy. And he has been this whole time, and he's been pretending to be a good guy. And I bought into that story. That's why I invested the 500 in this game, because I thought he was a good guy. He totally flipped the script on us. It was a bait and switch rug pull. And this whole thing just sucks.
Laid off developers were filing class action lawsuits,
Morales, thank
arguing
you for
that
the prime.
Intrepid broke the WARN Act, issuing notices, and then immediately firing everyone. They're demanding unpaid wages, severance, and the lost 60 days of notice, plus a ruling that the layoffs were illegal. The question then is who bears responsibility. And this is where everyone else's lawsuits come in. See, I told you the employee bit would really be the clear-cut one. Now we're going to get into murky waters. But I've actually got a quick update to your EDC first, thanks to Ridge, today's sponsor. Now, they've been my go-to wallet for years now. I use the wallet, I use the key case. Love my key case in gunmetal and in leather. They're gorgeous. And they've also leveled up. Now with the Ridge 2.0, which is lighter, it's more modular,
so
and it pairs with their
wallet
new tracker card.
Hack.
A company called TFE Games Holdings LLC sued Stephen Sharif and his husband John Murr on February 9th, as spotted by Theory Forge, who's doing fantastic work surfacing all of this as it happens. So TFE now owns Intrepid and the assets of Ashes of Creation, and they claim that Sharif has actively withheld documents, passwords, and more, breaching his fiduciary duty to the company and to the board. And this is apparently why staff haven't been paid and why the warrant obligations are not being met, because they quite literally can't get to the funds. And on top of that, Sharif allegedly did not warn the board about a $3.5 million credit claim on incoming Steam revenue. And the filing also alleges that between $10 and $20 million of the $130 million raised for Ashes of Creation are unexplained, unrecorded, quote, misappropriations. And then there are the loans. About $362,000 to Sharif, $6.7 million to Murr, and $4.86 million in undocumented personal transfers to Sharif, and $8.5 million to purchase.
Are there really how are there some people that are this greedy that can live with themselves by scamming millions of people? How do you live? I would not be able to. And then I swear he's just so fucking okay with it. And matter of fact, he's doubling down. Like, how do you scam an entire entity of people and then double down saying you did nothing wrong and shit? Like, this is some scummy behavior, guys. Unless he's got this like weird villain mentality, like the Thanos complex, where he just thinks he's a good person. And he's like, I'm doing the world a favor. He's probably tricked himself into that. It's probably some psycho mental behavior, huh? Otherwise, like, how do you live with yourself?
A property that was then sold with the loan never being repaid. So, that's a lot of allegations, and it seems there's a lot of money moving around with record keeping that doesn't adequately explain it. So, TFE are demanding repayment of outstanding loans, plus the documents they legally believe are theirs, going so far as to get a temporary restraining order that would compel turnover and prevent deletion. That's quite a lot. And much of this aligns with a viral video from YouTuber NephusQS, who was approached by investor Jason Karamanis. Now, Karamanis is not currently named in any of these lawsuits. He's just providing evidence and his account of events. Now, he claims that he introduced Stephen Sharif to Robert Dawson, a major backer, and helped secure the funding that led to Dawson contributing $80 million in total.
What?
Well, money follows money. If you're going to contribute a lot of money, it will certainly look good if others have done similar. But in a way, that's the boring numbers. What's more engaging is that this was an hour of sweary, very angry conversation, including calling Sharif and Murr, quote, insane pathological narcissists. So there is no love lost between Karamanis and Sharif. However, allegedly there are millions of dollars lost. This is stuff lost to him based on personal investments, while he's claiming that Sharif never invested a cent of his own money. Karamanis claims that Sharif and Murr paid themselves $500,000 a year, and alleges that Sharif's warning to Commerce West Bank was to protect a loan on their home by ensuring that the Steam revenue couldn't be used for staff payroll. So that would be the credit stuff in the Steam revenue. If true, that's quite wild, isn't it? Now, he claims to know this because He says he's got data, and Karaman has shared financial documentation and personal texts with Nefis QS showing a total debt for Intrepid somewhere between $100 and $140 million. Now, the texts mostly show two businessmen trying to convince each other to invest or to pay back loans, with Karamanis becoming increasingly hostile as it begins to become clear that he's not getting his returns. But there is one person who we haven't heard from yet in this story, and that is, of course, Stephen. When we last left this story, it was with a promise from Stephen Sharif. He intended to file legal action and hoped that that would give everyone, quote, a better understanding of what happened. And as of Valentine...
Dude, how is it hard to get in touch with Stephen? This guy was hopping into streamers' chats and like giving them pets and stuff. Like he was in Sony's chat and S-Fan and hanging out with Showbeck. He was in their chats giving them like pets and stuff and like trying to get people hyped up about the game. Was he more interested in like the showmanship and the attention? Was that his strategy than pay attention to the back end investors? Was he more interested in that and just getting people to sub?
Day, he's filed as well. Now, Sharif is suing Intrepid and their current board, led by Robert Dawson, plus Dawson's company, TFE Games Holding, which now controls Ashes of Creation. He's suing to stop them from selling the IP and the assets, to undo the foreclosure that transferred ownership, and to remove the board entirely. And here's his account of how things got to this point. It begins, of course, with the 2017 Kickstarter, and we learned that Intrepid was running on debt from day one. That basically means investor loans that would convert to equity or would have to be repaid. Now, Sharif was CEO, but he was not a shareholder, and Moore sat on the board. Now, by 2020, they secured a $6 million loan with Commerce West Bank, with Moore guaranteeing that loan and the company's IP being used as collateral. Now, in 2021, Sharif is introduced to Dawson, who then spends the next 4 years putting money into Intrepid. But in 2023, Sharif alleges that Dawson talked him out of selling the game for millions to a major developer, allegedly Riot Games. That's according to Karamanis. Now that shifted things, and as this account of things goes, Dawson then realized how valuable this game could be, but also that he wouldn't be able to, quote, turn as quick a profit as he had hoped. And from there, Dawson allegedly began pushing for more shares. And the alleged examples are rather striking, demanding a warrant granting 10% of the company for $10, or zero-cost equity options on his debt. Those are, to put it mildly, fairly bold asks. Now, why would Sharif and the board agree to this? Well, the claim here is that Dawson threatened them, that he threatened to cut off payroll, to sue the company, and to financially ruin Sharif, or even to physically harm him. And Sharif claims that this took a serious personal toll. And I read a quote, "An extreme health crisis, including a hypertensive emergency and acute kidney failure, hospitalization, and vision loss from blood pressure complications, including muscular edema." That is quite horrible. So you can see as we go through Sharif's filing here that it's really quite rough sounding. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because in May of 2024, it seems that something happened. But here, the filing is redacted. But it seems what happens is that Dawson ends up in control.
That seems a bit extreme, but a lot of things like that in your life when you are stressed out can actually manifest into like sickness like that. So it's not uncommon for that to happen. So obviously, when you're the guy funding the company threatens to hurt you or kill you, if you don't give him a certain thing, then that's pretty serious.
Ends up being the largest shareholder, largest debtor, and the person running the finances and the board. He then forces Moore off, appoints a new CFO, and requires Moore to transfer his shares to Sharif. Now, Sharif retains creative control, but the threats then continue. Dawson and his deputies, quote, frequently threatened to harm Stephen and his loved ones physically if Stephen did not comply with his demands. And most importantly, Dawson secured all of his debt against the assets of Intrepid. But the story is not over, it keeps on going. By September 2024, he's chair of the board, he's directing his CFO to open new bank accounts, and by August of 2025, he has appointed the rest of the board, and Stephen Sharif claims that he is instructed not to publicize this. So not to publicize anything about the board. Now, that September, the board then decides to launch on Steam and the CFO tells Commerce West Bank that the income from this Steam release will cover their outstanding balance. So, Sharif's central claim here is that all of this was deliberate, that Dawson was engineering a default so that TFE, his company, could seize the assets that he had just secured his debts against. And here's how that plays out. Valve refused to use the new Dawson-controlled accounts for payouts. Then January has things speed up, where on the 7th, Dawson then moves the beneficiary of all of his debts to TFE, which is the other company. On the 14th, he tells investors he has a plan to fix the debts, to foreclose on Intrepid, and to secure enough capital to release Ashes of Creation September 2026. This is likely the original plan to lay off most of the staff and then to continue development that we discussed in our previous coverage of this story. Now, Sharif then supposedly spoils this, where on the 15th, he tells Commerce West Bank what's up, and they issue a default statement on their loan. Dawson then follows through on the 16th. Intrepid defaults, and all the assets go to TFE via a, quote, private sale with no notice to other creditors. Sharif then resigns following multiple attempts to stop all of this, and he claims there was a board meeting on the 30th that had witnesses suggesting a plan to make him the fall guy, and that this plan was already in the works because the CFO had filed false documents with the California registry, and those are the documents that we showed you in our last video. Now, the warn notice is then filed on the 31st. Staff are all axed on the 2nd. Sharif alleges that this was because the $5 million that Valve were meant to send for early access sales was in fact intercepted by Commerce West Bank because Dawson did not control those finances. Valve then suspended trading with Intrepid on the 3rd, and TFE are allegedly offering former employees money to get access to the game, and that they're doing that whilst they're trying to line up buyers for it. As for Stephen Sharif's defense, well, he denies all the accusations of misleading investors, of misappropriating funds, the whole lot. Of course, TFE and at least one of his other investors disagree with that. And thus far, in this video, we have seen the core arguments from the core parties. You have to remember, this is people's charitable accounts of themselves and uncharitable accounts of all the other people in the situation, because everyone is ultimately trying to win their lawsuit. And that means you should treat these as narratives that people are putting out there, and we just have not went through the full legal process to untangle.
Damn, this lawsuit is going to take forever, but I can't wait to figure out what actually happened, because the things that Steven is saying about the main investor taking control of the company and becoming the board actually seems legit, and then everything that people are accusing Steven of actually seems legit, and you don't know if the people suing Steven, or are they suing the board? I don't know whose lawsuits are going at each other at this point. All this legal jargon, I'm not a lawyer, it's hard for me to understand what half of this shit means. And it's like, all I know is that a lot of people got screwed over, and it's like, dude, whose fault is it? What actually happened? But it really makes Steven look bad because he's the only one that people know. I guess I didn't really know about this back-end investor guy and some shit that he was up to behind the scenes. So we'll have to see what actually happened. And only the courtroom will figure it out.
Tangle what is actually happening here. And of course, the hope is that that legal process would actually be useful. And that would be because of things like the discovery process, where documentation is legally required to be handed over. Now, with that said, let me boil this all down into the core stuff to remember about what's going on with this game. The common thread here is kind of simple. It's that Intrepid was a company that just kept wheeling and dealing to keep its lights on right up to the very end. And from the framing of Karmanis and Dawson, they are heroes who try to salvage the game from, quote, insane pathological narcissists who would have never released anything and, I suppose, would have kept flipping off funds from the game into houses and lifestyle and all that. From Stephen Sharif's perspective, he is the victim of an abusive group of investors who schemed for years to benefit themselves at the expense of the developers, the players, and of course, himself.
I don't believe that. I think this counter lawsuit is meant to try and make Steven look good. I really feel like Steven is not a guy who got stuff done. I really feel like he is a guy who enjoys the lavish lifestyle, money, and he wouldn't mind scamming people. I think he is a two-faced individual, but maybe I'll eat my words one day. I tend to lean more from the to that narrative when it comes to the two sides here. I think that Steven is kind of a POS, to put it short.
Who's right? Who's wrong? We cannot say right now. Do expect that almost everyone will come off worse than their own account of themselves. That's how these things tend to go. But basically, the court battles to decide who's right and who's wrong are only just beginning. There will be more updates on this channel as it develops. And if the complete wasted potential of this really gets you activated, well, check out this video next about Blue Point, about PlayStation.
There's a small chance that Steven is white knighting this whole thing, and it all got taken away from him, and it was out of his hands, and he's a victim. I would say less than 1% chance that that's actually happened. Right now, I'm looking at this whole situation like this guy is the worst type of villain there is. He's the guy that is manipulating everyone and literally doing some type of rug pull on this whole operation that was orchestrated from the beginning. So getting people to believe in some greater than thou vision, making himself look like the hero. And then at the end, all of a sudden, everything got taken away from him and he was forced to leave. And now his whole vision is ruined and everything that he worked hard for is now being ruined because it's out of his hands. And that's how he's trying to make it look. And that whole thing is so manipulative. It is just like the dirtiest type of villain there is. And the whole time he's trying to make himself look good, even though he's scamming like millions of people. I don't know, guys. That is the worst type of person. And that's what I think this is. That's what I think this is happening. 4D chess scam. Yeah. I hope I get my $500 back.